Okay, let's start then. This is my first time on a Drupal event. That's why I'm going to give a short introduction of myself first. Okay, I am Graber. You can find my profile on Drupal.org under that nickname. I am involved in working with Drupal since about 6 years. However, quite recently, like about September last year, I decided I am already a good expert and the community gave a lot to me, so now I want to give something back to the community. And I started working more actively on Drupal.org, uploading some modules, working on issue queues and reporting some bugs. That's also the reason I'm here. Okay. Yeah. The topic of my today's lecture is dependency injection and, well, also traits. It's a way of writing extendable code to actually make building on top of it easier. Okay. Yeah. Okay, first I'm going to tell about the idea of open source in general. The main reason for it is to use some existing code base, existing solutions, and have a community that can also test our code, that can contribute to common projects, and also help us in development for the common benefit. Not, of course, a unit always thinks of its own benefit first. So we do something, actually we do an assignment for a client and we get paid, but it's also good to think when we are a part of the community to make the community also benefit somehow. I think I missed something from the last slide. Yeah, let's go back. Okay. My way of doing projects is like when I get an assignment, I always think first how to put a little extra work and make something that is extendable, that can be reused later. How to actually make it, like basically to write a module that can be reused by like changing configuration or just one that works out of the box, and that is the correct approach in case of open source projects. We can share that later with others or just benefit ourselves. Sometimes it depends on the client. They just sometimes don't agree. Yeah. Okay. So let's imagine we're building a castle, and we have a castle blueprint that is like made available to us through an open source project. We want to extend it, add new rooms to actually sell it to the client. So we use the code. Sometimes some other people use our blueprint of our extended castle to make it even more extended. Or we get a new client that also wants a better castle than the previous client, and we also have to extend it. Yeah. Okay, I think I mixed up a little. Yeah. That's where dependency injection helps. It's a great feature to actually be able to write extendable code. Okay, so let's get to the definitions. In dependency injection, we have a project that's built of services. Services are small functionalities that serve a certain purpose. Actually, service is an object that is usually pre-configured. Sometimes we configure the object inside of our service object or our service, our functionality, something new, and then we make it available to any other classes that extend our class. And the trait is actually, it's a set of methods that can be reused and put inside of our class. Now, the service container is a centralized container where all services of the application are stored. They are lazy loaded, so each service object is actually instantiated whenever we ask for the service, not all of them at the runtime. So I track down where the Drupal container is initialized. It's here. That's maybe something interesting. And yeah, we can get the container statically using the Drupal get container function. Yeah. Okay. Now, how to fill the container? There are a lot of services that are already a part of Drupal core, and those services can be found under this URL. It's a very useful list. You can check actually all the services there. Yes, there is some documentation on the services YAML file, how it should be written, but I find it highly outdated. It's actually a bit different. Okay. So yeah, when we define the service, there are some main parameters that I want to tell you about. And I think now it's better to get to the code. Yeah. Okay. Or maybe I'll just tell about them and then we'll show an example. Okay. So first, class is the class of the service we want to instantiate the object of. Then a factory. Okay. If a factory is given, class parameter only serves an informational purpose. Okay, so the factory then, it's it's a class and a method. It's a static method that actually serves the purpose of instantiating the service object. Then we can pass in arguments. If factory is not given, the arguments will be passed to the class constructor. If a factory is given, the arguments will be passed to the factory get object function or whatever we call it. Okay. Some other arguments are tags. Those are used by Drupal to actually check what kind of a service is that. One good example would be the what was it called? Event dispatcher. Sorry, event subscriber. We define event subscriber tag, and then Drupal knows this is an event subscriber class, event subscriber service of our module, and it gets called at the right time. Also, one more important parameter, it's a file to include when the object is instantiated. Okay. Now to the example. Okay, we have some very small module here that actually creates a service. We have some standard info file, a service module, and services YAML file. Okay, so we define two services here. One uses the first method by giving the class, not the factory. Okay, so we pass in the namespace and the class actually with the arguments. If you precede the argument name with ampersand sign, it means it's another service that will be injected to the constructor method of the class. Okay, the second example uses the factory class. So we have a factory and some arguments which are also services that are passed to the factory. Okay, getService method. Maybe. Where was it? Okay, a bit better. Now, let's check the code. Here, everything is plain. Okay, now dependency injection means that the service objects are actually injected to our service. So we can see that here. We have first service, that is a parameter of our newly created service, and the second service, that is a second parameter. And those parameters are passed to the constructor function as in the services YAML file. Constructor arguments and constructor arguments. And we assign those services to the newly created object properties. So, whenever we use this service, those sub-services that were injected to it will be available. Also, when we extend the service class, when we create a new service, then also those parameters will be available. If we didn't use dependency injection, then we couldn't use those sub-services. Okay, maybe some in-life example. Okay, we have a car factory with everything like workers, painters, maybe some external delivery service. And now we want to make a motorcycle factory by extending the car factory. And now without dependency injection, the motorcycle factory would have no access to the car factory's painter service. It would have to have its own painters, even if the car factory painters are idle or are perfectly good for the motorcycle factory. Okay, I think that's all for this example, and we got to my first question. Okay, we have two methods of creating a new service here. One uses a class constructor, second uses a factory static method. Okay, what if we want to have a factory object? So we don't use a static method, but factory object that creates the service. How to write it down in the YAML file? Too hard. Too hard. All right. Okay, I'll give you a hint. We have to create the factory service. We have to create one more service. So, how do we create a service? Damn it. Yes, in the same file, the module can have like 3 services. Right? It already has 2. We want to create one more. So now we want to create the factory service to actually have an object that creates another service. Oh, what the hell? Let's just copy some code. I think this one will be enough. Okay. We'll name it Service Factory. I'll have to think about some easier questions eventually. Yeah, no space. Okay, we can call it like even My Service Factory. So yeah, it's a My Service service, and it's a My Service Factory. It creates services. Okay, it has a class and an argument and arguments. Okay. Okay, so again, we'll have to, under the service, we'd have to create one more file, My Service Factory PHP, and then define a class that will be also instantiated as an object, and will actually its purpose will be to create a service. Okay. There's some nesting here. I'll do it to the end, so you actually will see the notation. It's a bit different. Okay. And now we pass in a service here. There's old Symfony notation and new Symfony notation, so we can write it down two ways. But the main thing is that we actually use the service here. Okay. I may not remember this perfectly, but what's certain is that we give the service name and a method name. Okay. Yeah, so basically that's it. Now, this is actually an object here. This is the very service here. I'll probably check the notation. Now, with the new Symfony notation, we can just do this. Put a dot here. Okay. So that's how we create services. Okay, correct me if something was wrong with the factory service method. I think that's how it was. We'll check at the end. Okay, so we create new functionalities, new services, or new objects by using existing and other created by us services, and also by using traits, so we can reuse some methods defined somewhere else in the code. Now, the way we use services, there are two ways. Injection to constructor or factory method. That was what I showed in the example. And the second, it's a create method. Okay, create method is usually available if we extend the base class. A controller base or form base or some other plugin base if we want to write a plugin. Sometimes, if we don't extend a base class, I found this one in case of writing custom plugin types. We made the newly created class implement container injection interface. Okay, this is in case of controllers, and in case of plugins, we can make the class implement container factory plugin interface. Then Drupal will actually check if our class implements this interface, and if it implements, we'll have the create method of our newly created class executed, and in the create method we can access the container and pull the services. How it's done? Let's see. Okay, this is some plugin. It extends some base plugin class. So I assume that some base plugin class implements container injection plugin interface. So we can actually use the create function. And the create function has access to the Drupal container and can pull the services. We always return a new static where we actually get the services. Okay, when we use the create method, we have the services that we return by the create method available in the constructor. So further on, we proceed exactly the same way as we did when we've been creating new services using the services YAML file. Okay, now we also have a trait here. I chose the string translation trait, which is, I think, the most commonly used one in Drupal 8. So the string translation trait gives us the T function, the plural function, and some other string translation methods. Yeah. Okay, in this example, we inject the user private temp store service to this object. So we can actually get any configuration that is stored in the user session in our sum method and another method of the class. Also here, I'm not actually injecting the exact service because parameter of the newly created object is the actual user temp store, not the temp store factory. So it's like yes. it's returning a specific user session storage by the get method. Okay, so yeah, first we get the name of the temp store, and then we get the user. Okay, and then we can use this service in some method of the class to print the temp store content as a message. Okay, if we extend this class now, with some plugin extension class or whatever the name, and create an object, we'll also have the temp store of the user available. Now, okay, let's summarize. Yeah, we should write extendable and reusable code whenever possible to actually benefit ourselves and never do the same thing twice. Just use what we've done before, and also to allow others that will maybe come to the project after us to also benefit from the code. Also in the open source projects. Now, it's much easier when using dependency injection, because if someone or even we extend the work that has been done with dependency injection, we'll have access to everything in the object. Everything that was used to create the object and everything that the object has. We will, when we override some method of the object, of the class, we will not have to reinvent anything. Okay? It helps with testing and also with extending functionalities. I have a really hard time to think of some questions. Here are some references, but that's you can check that later.
How it's called? Translation method, and it comes from that translation trait.
Yes, exactly.
Can you use more traits than one, and you have all those methods under one this object?
Yes. That's the benefit of using traits. It's like we can extend only one class, okay, but we can use many traits.
Okay. I know a lot of modules in Drupal, but honestly, is there any possibility, or have you encountered a situation that you have the same named method in different traits? Because this is what is worrying me when multiple traits are accessible from one single object.
I will show you string translation. I will show you some. Yeah, we can just write here. Okay, this will not help. Oh, it's actually tricky.
Inside the class where you declare the useString translation trait, if you open a scope there by curly braces, then in there you can rename the methods of the trait to other names.
Okay, you put in an array here, or
yeah, and then so you can say like my method, and then it's S, and then it gets a different name, and then you can avoid any conflicts.
Nice one. Thank you for your contribution. Okay. Now, what I'm talking about is exactly this. Definitely the old notation, it's easy because we just pass an array. Okay, got it. We need an ampersand here. And now everything. Now everything will be fine. Okay. And this. Now it's perfect. Sorry for this little glitch. Okay, that's all. Thank you for your attention.